Overnight, Asia rebounded pretty strongly. Europe's looking pretty good. Futures also looking strong right now for the United States.
Every so often, we are gifted with these hilarious clips of the stuttering and the not knowing what to say, because it turns out the stock markets around the world, to include the U.S. stock market, everything is totally fine. Everything is going back up. And when MSNBC this whole time has been reporting everything's going downhill, the world is ending, this is what you get. So let's get into this video because it is hilarious.
Headlines, New York Times talking about the trade war escalating and market turmoil spreading across the world. Wall Street Journal, I will say, Mika, fortunately, overnight, Asia rebounded pretty strongly. Europe's looking pretty good. Futures also looking strong right now for the United States.
Man, anyone who's ever taken a public speaking class, they would have been given a D-, possibly failed their grade for the amount of uhs that were uttered in that news segment. But again, if I had to make an educated guess, I think the reason why he's a little shocked, either he was lying or he believed these lies that the stock market was going to collapse. We had all these economists on our show saying, man, this is terrible. What is happening? Well, it turns out the script has now flipped, and to be honest with you, this might be the worst case scenario now for Democrats, even though we should all be cheering right now, because it's good. The markets are going back up. What's the issue here?
President Trump has maximum negotiating leverage right here, right now, and I think it would be a mistake for anyone to think otherwise. And as I said, many of our trading partners, they have queued up and they have kept their cool. They have not escalated, and they will get priority in the queue.
Okay, quick context. So we are in the green right now, which, by the way, this is so funny that now the entire day we are going to be seeing green throughout the entire stock market. We'll talk about that a little later. But there is one country that we still have to worry about a little. It's China. In fact, Donald Trump talks about China later in this video, but we are still waiting to see what China is going to do, because all they have said is we will fight till the end, their exact words, but they're also saying they don't want a trade war. Again, we'll get into all of that, but here's what the Secretary of the Treasury has to say about China fighting till the end and them not making deals and them escalating.
I think it was a big mistake, this Chinese escalation, because they're playing with a pair of twos. Traditionally, if you look at the history of the trade negotiations, we are the deficit country. So what do we lose by the Chinese raising tariffs on us? We export 1/5 to them of what they export to us. So that is a losing hand for them.
So there you go. United States still holding firm that, look, China can say what they want to say and do what they want to do, but it's not going to work out for them at the end of the day. China needs us more than we need them. So let's see what happens. But here is what Donald Trump has to say about the situation. I think it's rather interesting. Now, I'm not going to read through all of this. You guys can pause the video and read what Donald Trump had to say. A quick summary. Basically, Donald Trump is saying South Korean officials are on the plane right now heading towards the United States. This was written at 9:08 a.m. on April 8th, so in the morning. But what you will notice at the very bottom of the screen, China also wants to make a deal badly, but they don't know how to get it started. We are waiting for their call. It will happen. God bless the USA. So according to Donald Trump, there are some indicators that China will make a deal possibly, but here's what's going on with China right now. It's a rather interesting situation. Now, China is playing a very dangerous game, and we don't know how long they can hold out. Here's what's happening. So, on the surface, what you're seeing is, here is the initial plateau, China's market going great, and then the drop-off on Monday from the tariffs. But then, you can see China's market is going back up. So, what's happening? Are these tariffs not working? Did the threat not work? Well, it is working. So, what you have to understand is that China's companies, they are majority owned by China. No companies are actually owned by the CEOs. China owns the majority. So they can say what they want to say, do what they want to do, especially when it comes to money. So basically what was happening is China started to move money around, start to inject more money into companies from the Federal Reserves or their government treasury and their own money, inject it into these private companies, because why not? China also owns these companies, so it's in their favor as well. So what we're seeing is the possibility for this artificial, uprising of their stock market. We don't exactly know how long they can maintain this artificial injection of money and capital, but this is currently what's happening right now. China is in damage control, trying to shift their money around in hopes that maybe, they can make a deal with the United States or the U.S. will back down. But the U.S. said, we are not backing down.
They are willing to do whatever and say what they have to continue their anti-Trump screed, ignoring the fact that Democrats actually in the past for a number of years have supported tariffs like the ones the president put on or is planning to put on a number of these countries. And so there could actually be some bipartisanship here when it comes to working out these deals with other countries, but the media is not helping in that aspect.
No, and to be honest with you, I am looking for Democrats who are praising that this is happening, and it's a good thing that the stock market is rebounding. I literally can't find anything. So this right here, I think, is going to backfire on the Democrats. Again, if you're a Republican, don't get too excited too yet. I don't want to give you guys false hope. This is a good sign, but we're also seeing it could possibly be everything was so low on Monday that a bunch of people bought into the stock market who don't know anything about stocks. They bought on the low, and then that boosted it up a little bit today, and then we'll see what happens. Again, it takes a few days to actually level out and make sure we are in the green and good to go. But again, we have so many indicators that everything is going great. The EU, again, wanting to make a deal. South Korea taking the steps to come to the country. Japan as well. Again, the big one is going to be China. What will China do? Because either way, that will definitely affect the stock market. Either great or not the best. So again, we'll have to see what happens. But the point is, I can't find any Democrat who's willing to stick their neck out and say, amazing, this is awesome. We're not seeing it. We just saw MSNBC stutter and say, yeah, things are looking okay.
This is new DNA for the Republican Party. That's why you hear Republicans and business guys who've basically been Republicans struggling with what to do, because the DNA of the party, for as long as any of us have been around, has been tariffs are bad, taxes should be low, free markets, et cetera, et
and
cetera.
like America's done pretty well.
But here's the flip side of that. Trump shows up with different advisors and different thoughts about asking questions. How well have we done if you're a working class, person, and you've seen your job shipped overseas, and you don't have the same kind of opportunities that perhaps you thought you were going to see? How well have certain segments of our society done?
Now, this is actually the simple truth that Republicans need to figure out what they're going to do and get on board with as far as the messaging. When it comes to politics today in the United States, everything is about messaging. To be honest with you, Democrats had the upper hand as far as a look at the stock market, it's collapsing, and Republicans did not do a good job to show everybody, look, it's not collapsing. In fact, the lowest point we had on Monday is still the highest we've ever been as a country. So what Scott Jennings is trying to say is, look, Republicans are not used to the tariffs because we've always been for the free trade. Everything's about the money. We got to take care of our debt. Now things are flipping, and we can even see Democrats are supporting the stock market all of a sudden and supporting billionaires. So this is where things are flipping, and Republicans now, as I make this video, it looks like they have the upper hand, considering the stock market is going well and they are trying to save U.S. jobs.
Is wealth inequality, because of some of these trade ideas over the years that have just seen jobs go away from people who previously could get jobs and live a comfortable middle-class lifestyle. So accepting this new DNA is going to be hard for some. You mentioned Rand Paul and Ted Cruz and others. They've been out there. Some are reluctantly accepting it, like John Kennedy. Others are running with it hard. How the party continues to accept that will probably be closely related to whether or not it works, over the 6 to 9 months. That's why I thought Kennedy was being honest. If it works, it'll be great, and if it doesn't, we'll recalibrate.
And that is just the simple truth. Look, if this doesn't work, this will backfire on all of the Republicans and on Donald Trump. This will not be good news. But again, we have indicators pointing in the right direction. Unfortunately, a lot of this relies on China, and I can't put all of the blame on the Democrats here. We have to be intellectually honest. Republicans in the early 2000s have always been for this free trade mindset because we needed money. We got to take care of the country. And it was actually people like Bernie Sanders, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer who were saying, no, we need the tariffs. That is why we are seeing videos today of the flip-flopping where, hold on, Democrats back then were for tariffs. Why are you not for tariffs today? So we are seeing this big policy switch. And again, this could be a little detrimental to Republicans if they don't figure it out and make sure they educate their voters that, look, this is a good thing. We're going to make sure it works for America.
Congress has given the president more and more authority on tariffs, specifically national security, for unfair trade practices. President Trump is fully within his authority. And I appreciate what the president is doing on tariffs, specifically in our home state of Wyoming. In terms of beef, the cattle producers,
Bingo.
They're saying it is about time.
Yeah.
The story that we're not hearing, and Fox News has been doing a good job with this, and CNN actually had a couple of segments. I'll give them some credit. MSNBC, I can't find anything. What we are not seeing are the American workers who are excited, the factory workers, manufacturing. They're like, yes, finally, maybe we can make a little more money or we can get some more job opportunities here.
Countries that you just showed on that slip before I came on, Australia. Australia has sold $29 billion worth of beef in the United States, and we haven't been able to sell one hamburger in Australia because of barriers. They showed Thailand, 30% tariffs on beef coming from the United States. Vietnam, 50%. You look at these numbers, and the ranchers of Wyoming are saying, thank you, Mr. President, it is about time. Congress.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't understand why we are not hyping up the worker. It's because we've just forgotten about the farmers and the factory workers, the manufacturers. We just assume everything we look at on our shirts and our clothing and everything else is made in China, made in Vietnam. This is like the moment in history where we can finally make a change, where we can finally make more products in the United States. I saw some weird stat out there that like 200,000 American flags were made in China, just to give you some perspective on how much we rely on countries like China. Look, I would be a hypocrite if I said, bring it all into America. I use an iPhone. These things are not made in America. So it is just embedded in our culture more than half of the time. We can't make this choice, but I'm sure a lot of Americans, if they had the choice, hey, do you want the American iPhone or do you want the Chinese iPhone? The majority of Americans are going to choose the American iPhone. I'm not saying iPhone is going to be made in America, but what I'm saying is the majority of Americans want American products. We just can't find them because they're so expensive and they're just not readily available. It's just the simple truth. All right, so look, if you're a Republican, conservative, or anybody who's excited that the stock market is going up, it is going up. But I am also seeing some indicators. Do not get too excited yet. We don't know the full truth or the full outcome. Again, as I make this video, we're only a couple of hours into the stock market, so everybody needs to calm down a little bit. But everybody, world markets, everybody's also starting to go up a little bit because the United States, yes, we made that initial threat to everybody, but we are not cruel. We are not the enemies. We're also open to these negotiations, which is actually good for everybody. If we have fair deals and fair practices, the quality of the products go up because we all do better as a world society, let alone anyone who's connected to the United States. So again, we'll have to see what happens with China. That is going to be the big indicator. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. God bless, and we'll see you guys later.